The sharp beeping of machines filled the room as Dr. Anna Harper rushed through the hospital corridor. Her pulse raced, but her hands were steady. Another patient had been wheeled in, critical condition. She didn't have time to think about anything but the task at hand. The operating room was a whirlwind of action, with nurses moving swiftly, and voices exchanging instructions in quick bursts. Anna's focus zeroed in on the man lying unconscious on the table, his chest rising and falling with labored breaths. A car accident. The driver had been badly injured, internal bleeding, multiple fractures. She couldn't let him die. Scalpel in hand, she made the first incision. The minutes felt like hours as she and her team worked to repair the damage. Sweat beaded on her forehead, her mind fully absorbed in every decision, every movement. It was a delicate dance between life and death, but one she had practiced countless times. "Vital stabilizing," one of the nurses announced. Relief spread through the room, but Anna remained composed, finishing the procedure. Once everything was under control, she allowed herself a small exhale. They had done it. He was going to live. As the patient was transferred to recovery, Anna lingered for a moment, watching the rhythmic rise and fall of his chest. There was something about this case that felt different, though she couldn't quite place why. Maybe it was the intensity of the situation or the raw, almost tangible energy in the room as they fought to save him. Just before leaving the recovery room, she glanced down at him one last time. His eyes fluttered open, catching hers. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow. "You saved my life," he murmured, his voice hoarse and weak, but his gaze piercing. Anna hesitated, a strange sensation stirring in her chest. "I had to," she replied softly, her words laced with more than just the responsibility of her profession. Without another word, she turned and left, her thoughts swirling, unsure why she felt so connected to this stranger. Back in the hallway, her phone buzzed with a message from Lucas, her best friend. He wanted to meet later for drinks. Anna sighed, closing her eyes briefly, her mind still on the man in recovery. Later that evening, Anna met Lucas at their favorite bar, a cozy spot filled with the familiar scent of wood and low chatter. Lucas was already there, sitting comfortably at their usual table, his easy smile greeting her as she sat down. "So, another life saved," he said, handing her a drink with a grin. His brown eyes sparkled with the warmth she had grown to rely on over the years. With Lucas, everything always felt steady. Stable. Anna gave a small, tired smile. "Yeah, barely." Lucas raised his glass. "You always pull through, though." His admiration was genuine, and Anna felt a twinge of guilt. She had always leaned on Lucas in moments like this. He was her rock, the constant in her life. But tonight, something felt off. It wasn't him, it was her. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Daniel, the patient she had just saved. The intensity of his gaze lingered in her mind, pulling her in like a tide. As they sipped their drinks, Lucas spoke about his day, and Anna found herself watching him more closely. He was talking, but she wasn't fully listening. Instead, she noticed the subtle changes in his expression, the tension in his voice that hadn't been there before. There was something deeper beneath the surface. When Lucas reached across the table to touch her hand, Anna felt a jolt. His touch was familiar, grounding, but it was also new, vulnerable. She blinked, caught off guard by the wave of emotion that came with it. "I've been thinking a lot lately," Lucas said, his tone shifting from playful to serious. "About us." Anna's heart skipped a beat. They had been best friends for so long that the thought of anything more had always been easy to push aside. But now, sitting here with him, the weight of his words hung in the air, unsettling yet comforting. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. It was the hospital. An update on the patient. Anna's pulse quickened as she read the message. Daniel was awake and asking for her. The next morning, Anna returned to the hospital, her thoughts still tangled from the previous night. Lucas's words had opened something inside her, something she wasn't ready to confront. But now, she had to focus on her patient. As she entered Daniel's room, the morning light streamed through the window, casting soft shadows across the bed. Daniel was sitting up, his eyes bright with recognition as she walked in. "Dr. Harper," he greeted her, his voice stronger than before. "I owe you my life." Anna smiled, trying to maintain her professional demeanor. "Just doing my job," she replied, though the words felt thin. There was a connection here, something unspoken that went beyond her role as his doctor. They exchanged a few pleasantries, the conversation polite but increasingly personal. As the minutes passed, Daniel's charm began to show. He had an easy confidence, the kind that came from living on the edge. "I imagine being a doctor has its own thrills," Daniel mused, leaning back slightly. "But it must get predictable after a while." Anna chuckled, shaking her head. "Predictable? Hardly. Every day is a new challenge. But it's safe, right?" Daniel continued, his gaze searching hers. "You're in control. You know the risks, and you manage them. I'm not sure I could do that." She raised an eyebrow. "And you? You seem like someone who thrives on unpredictability." Daniel's smile widened, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm a photographer. I go wherever the stories take me. Usually to places most people avoid." His tone darkened slightly as he added, "It's dangerous. But it makes me feel alive." His words stirred something deep inside her. The way he spoke about life and risk made Anna feel a pull toward him, like he was offering a glimpse into a world she didn't understand but found intoxicating. For a moment, she forgot about Lucas and her carefully structured life. Sitting here with Daniel, she felt herself drawn toward the unknown, to the thrill of stepping into something new. Over the following days, Anna found herself returning to Daniel's room more often than she intended. Their conversations flowed easily, and Daniel's stories of his travels captivated her. He had been to places she had only read about, remote deserts, chaotic cities, dangerous war zones. His life was a stark contrast to the one she knew, and that difference both fascinated and unsettled her. But beneath the surface of his stories, Anna sensed a deeper layer of mystery. Daniel wasn't just someone chasing thrills, there was something he was running from, though he never said it outright. The danger he sought seemed almost deliberate, as if he was testing the limits of his own mortality. One evening, after a long shift, Anna found herself sitting at Daniel's bedside once more. The hospital was quiet, the soft hum of machines the only sound in the room. "Why do you do it?" she asked, breaking the silence. "Why take so many risks?" Daniel's easy demeanor faltered for the first time. He hesitated, his fingers tracing the edge of the blanket. "I guess it's my way of feeling alive," he said finally, his voice quieter than usual. "When you've been close to death, everything else feels less real. Safer, but emptier." Anna watched him closely. She knew that feeling, the tension between life and death that filled her work. But for Daniel, it was different. It wasn't just part of his job, it seemed to be something he actively sought out. Before she could press further, her phone buzzed again. It was Lucas. She glanced at the screen, guilt twisting in her chest. She had been avoiding him, unsure of how to handle the emotions that had surfaced during their last conversation. Anna glanced back at Daniel, who had returned to staring out the window. The pull between the two men was becoming harder to ignore, and with it, the weight of the secrets they both carried, Lucas with his unspoken love, and Daniel with his dangerous past. That evening, Anna agreed to meet Lucas. They chose a small cafe near the hospital, a place filled with the familiarity that had always marked their friendship. But tonight, the air between them felt heavier. Lucas greeted her with his usual warm smile, but there was a seriousness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. They exchanged small talk, but both of them knew what was coming. After a few minutes of conversation, Lucas finally leaned forward, his hands resting on the table between them. "Anna, there's something I need to say." Her heart began to race as she met his gaze. She wasn't ready for this. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said softly, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We've been friends for so long, and I've always cared about you. But it's more than that." Anna swallowed, unsure of how to respond. She had always known, on some level, that Lucas felt something deeper for her, but she had never allowed herself to fully confront it. "I love you, Anna," he continued, his voice trembling slightly. "I've loved you for a long time, and I didn't want to ruin what we had. But I can't keep pretending." Her breath caught in her throat. Lucas's confession was everything she had feared and hoped for all at once. She cared for him deeply, but something inside her held back from fully embracing the love he offered. Before she could say anything, an image of Daniel flashed through her mind, his intensity, his unpredictability, his raw emotion. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, her phone buzzed again. It was the hospital. Daniel wanted to see her. Anna's heart twisted painfully. She wasn't ready to make this decision. "Lucas, I need to think," she said, standing abruptly. His face fell, but he nodded, a sad understanding in his eyes. "I'll wait for you, Anna. Just figure out what you want." As she left the cafe, the weight of her decision pressed down on her. Lucas had finally revealed his heart, but now she had to face her growing connection with Daniel. Back at the hospital, Anna sat in her office, the weight of the past few days crashing down on her. Lucas's confession played over and over in her mind. His words had been honest and raw, and she knew they had come from a place of love. But as much as she cherished Lucas, something was holding her back from giving in to that love. Her thoughts drifted to Daniel. In just a short time, he had upended everything she thought she knew about herself. He was unpredictable, intense, and full of passion. With Lucas, everything felt safe and secure. With Daniel, nothing was certain. Her phone buzzed again. It was her colleague, Dr. Harper, someone she often confided in. Sensing she needed clarity, Anna agreed to meet her for coffee. Sitting across from Dr. Harper, Anna felt a wave of relief as she began to pour out everything, the history with Lucas, the sudden intensity with Daniel, and the overwhelming confusion clouding her thoughts. "What do you really want, Anna?" Dr. Harper asked gently, leaning forward. "I know you care about both of them, but which one feels like the right path for you?" Anna stared into her coffee, her fingers tracing the rim of the cup. "Lucas is safe," she admitted. "I know him better than anyone, and he knows me. It's comfortable, familiar. But Daniel, he makes me feel alive in a way I can't explain. It's exciting, but it's also terrifying." Her colleague smiled softly. "Love isn't always safe. But that doesn't mean it can't be real. The question is, what are you willing to risk? Stability or the unknown?" Anna nodded slowly. Both paths offered something different, but they couldn't coexist. She had to choose. The next morning, Anna stood outside the hospital, her heart pounding. Today, she would make her choice. Both men were waiting for her in their own ways, Lucas with his unwavering love, and Daniel with the magnetic pull of the unknown. Taking a deep breath, Anna walked into the hospital, heading straight for Daniel's room. The room felt heavier than usual, the tension between them undeniable as soon as she stepped inside. "Daniel," she began softly, sitting on the edge of his bed. "We need to talk." He looked up at her, his gaze intense but steady. "I know," he said, his voice carrying an edge of vulnerability. "I've been waiting for this." Anna took a deep breath. "You've opened up a part of me I didn't know existed," she admitted, her voice wavering. "But your life, it's dangerous, unpredictable. I don't know if I can handle that kind of uncertainty. Daniel's face softened, and he reached for her hand. I won't lie, Anna. My life is messy, and it comes with risks. But you're the first thing that's made me want to slow down. I don't want to run anymore. Not from you. His words struck deep, but they also brought her clarity. She had been torn between two worlds, but now, standing here, she knew the truth. Later that day, Anna met Lucas in the park where they used to play as kids. The tension was thick, but her decision had been made. Lucas, she began, her voice trembling. I love you, but not in the way you need. My heart, it's with Daniel. His face fell, but there was no anger, only a deep sadness. He squeezed her hand gently. As long as you're happy, Anna. In the days that followed, the weight of Anna's decision began to settle. The pain of letting Lucas go lingered, but she knew it was the right choice. She would always care for him, but with Daniel, everything felt different. One evening, as the sky turned shades of pink and orange, Anna returned to the hospital with a newfound sense of peace. She found Daniel sitting by the window, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. I wasn't sure you'd come back, he said softly as she entered the room. Anna smiled, moving to stand beside him. I wasn't sure either, she admitted. But I'm here. And I'm ready to see where this goes. Daniel reached for her hand, his touch gentle but firm. I can't promise this will be easy, he said, his voice low. But I promise I won't run. Not from you. For the first time in weeks, Anna felt at peace. The road ahead with Daniel would be uncertain, filled with challenges she couldn't foresee, but that uncertainty no longer scared her. As she left the hospital that evening, Anna smiled to herself. She had chosen passion, risk, and the thrill of a new beginning, and she had no regrets. I hope you enjoyed this story full of twists and emotions. What did you think of the ending? Share your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear your opinions. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more exciting stories like this. We have many more intriguing and suspenseful narratives coming your way. Stay tuned and invite friends who love a good story. See you next time.